The school bells are ringing. After 5 months away from friends and favorite activities, celebrations canceled, milestones missed. Children all across Metro Detroit are eager to start the new school year. But this is a year unlike any other, under the COVID cloud of concerns and questions. Should children be in school? Homeschool? Virtual school? Is it safe? How will it work? How will we manage it all? They are questions with no easy answers, leaving many parents more anxious than eager for what lies ahead. Tonight, we hope to help answer some of those questions, because wherever you fit into the puzzle of making this work for our children, family, friend, neighbor, teacher, one thing is certain: we are all in this together. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. This has been a big day for many families in our community, including Sandra's, by the way. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. It's the first day of school. It looks and feels a lot different from any other.
Yeah, you can say that again. For the next hour, we are going to take a closer look at some of the big changes and also help you prepare for the school year ahead, whether your children are learning virtually or in person.
Nearly 20 school districts in Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County started the new school year today.
Some returned to the classroom wearing masks. Others signed in from a device inside their home. No matter where we went or who we talked to, teachers, parents, kids, the feeling is the same. We're all in this together.
The biggest theme of this year, we are going to have to take care of each other.
Different, challenging, an opportunity. Words to describe this upcoming school year at a sunrise gathering of seniors at North Farmington High School.
We must continue to hold our heads up high and set an example for the underclassmen.
The traditional first day picture.
I'm so excited to have you. I'm like, whoa!
Taken outside Oakman Elementary with the teacher wearing a mask and face shield. Students at Dearborn Public Schools will begin the year online.
I'm going in 5th grade. I felt it's hard. And then I'm like, I need to be brave. I can do it.
We tell them we're going to walk you through all that learning and we'll take it from there, and it's going to be a great year.
At Ferndale Upper Elementary, Vaughn Davis was in a 5th grade classroom by himself. Waiting online were 28 students.
The very first thing I asked them as they were coming in and I was taking attendance was I wanted them to share 2 things with me: how you're feeling about this new school format, and then something that you are excellent at or that you love to do.
Davis has been teaching for 16 years. He shared the first day nerves with his students.
I know how I am. I'm usually always a nervous wreck. I want them to be able to see that if you are nervous or maybe a little shy or you're worried, it's okay.
Davis says he'll hold office hours throughout the day for kids who have questions but may not feel comfortable asking a question to a virtual crowd.
Have a good day.
Dearborn Heights District 7 gave parents the option, in person or online. At Pardee Elementary, every classroom filled with partitions and masks are mandatory. All day specials like art are in the classroom. So is lunch.
That was the goal, is to try to keep kids in as small groups as possible and not interacting with other classes.
If a teacher or student does test positive for COVID-19, the entire class has to quarantine for 14 days.
I hope for the best. You know, we do practices, keep the mask on, wash your hands, and stay 6 feet.
We practiced, the things. She's got her wipes, and they have to do air hugs, and, no touching, and her face masks and things like that. We've gone over it.
Students and teachers excited to make connections and get off to a good start.
Good job. We're going to do this together, okay?
And we've shown you what the school day looked like at school, but how did it feel from home?
Yeah, there is just so much uncertainty for students, parents, and teachers about what remote learning will look like, not just on this first day, but in the weeks, possibly months ahead. Paula Tutman spent the day with the Farmington Hills family embarking on this new learning journey. Paula?
Hi, good evening, guys. Yeah, you know what? In these waning days of summer, of course, the excitement turns to the first day of school, but there is always a sense of uncertainty. New teacher, new faces, new grade, new schools. But for these parents and families who are experiencing true remote learning for the very first time, there's a different kind of uncertainty in the air.
So you're excited about school tomorrow? No.
They are a family brimming with hope.
It's time for school.
A bright, beautiful daughter who will carry their dreams into the future.
You ready?
Yes.
No, you're not, actually.
Yes.
And so for Charmaine and Fernie Brown, remote learning for however long it's here needs to work.
I think she will be fine. But you know, we never want our children to be just fine. We want them to excel. We want them to be successful.
Their first day of remote learning likely differed little from the more than 24 local districts that only offered one option.
You got a long way to go. Your drive to your classes.
Only a quick commute up the stairs. 13-year-old Michaela's district, the Farmington Public Schools district, is starting the year off remotely.
On the first day of school, there was like a lot of excitement. Now there's not that much excitement.
For many parents and students, turning a computer monitor into a vehicle for formal education is a mammoth shift and lift. But for this Farmington teacher, it was as simple as putting on a tux and making remote learning formal.
So I really appreciate you being patient with me, and I'll get this going.
So this week, the schedule's a little wacky for the first 3 weeks.
Tomorrow you guys are going to have a little Google form that you're going to fill out.
I believe very wholeheartedly that our education system is doing absolutely everything that it can to create the right environment and to keep the students really focused and engaged on learning.
The jury's still out about that from our perspective. I think that overall, my fear is that their gap is going to widen, unfortunately.
Keep your Google Meet open, and then, you know, I'll tell you the time that we would come back to our screens.
Traditionally, you may have had a teacher that could put their arm around someone, hey, you're not quite getting this, let me put my arm around you, do that. That sense of being able to see that student struggling is a little different now.
Of course, there has been many a student who hated school or disliked going to school.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned English.
But it turns out that a lot of these students really want to be in school after all.
Such a teenager.
They just didn't notice it until the option was taken away.
I miss it. I just want to go back.
Yeah, wow. So what did we learn from the Browns today? Well, that students are resilient. They often model what we are feeling. Oh, yeah, and love the tux. Love the tux. Steve and Sandra.
Oh, so many challenges for everybody involved. Paula, clearly many school districts are starting the year remotely. Is there any clear answer as to when the schools will open the doors to in-person learning?
Well, a lot of it depends on the school district. Some of them have given a date in October. Some have given parents the option that they can come back sometime, probably January or February or next semester. But I think those are really just float dates. I think you have to really be flexible, because in the end, we all know it is COVID that will be the final decider.
Yeah, flexible and patient. I guess those are going to be the keys over the next couple of months. Thank you, Paula. She is the doctor who helps Governor Whitmer make some pretty big decisions, like when in-person learning is safe. Our Dr. Frank McGeorge spoke one-on-one with the state's top medical executive.
It's personal for Dr. Janae Caldoun because she's also a mom. She tells Dr. McGeorge what's best for students really depends on where you live.
I'm joined by Dr. Janae Caldoun, the Chief Medical Executive for the state of Michigan, and frankly, an exceptional emergency physician who works with me in the emergency department at Henry Ford Hospital. Dr. Caldoun, thank you so much for joining us on this interview.
Good to see you, Dr. McGeorge.
So back to school is the issue of the day. And as the physician at the side of the governor, talk about how you see returning to school across the state, maybe by regions, and then maybe drilling down to Southeast Michigan specifically.
Right, so there's no question. Again, I'm a mother of 3 school-age children as well. So in my own personal life, I'm paying a lot of attention to this. there's no question that the education of our children, and of course, ideally in-person education, is just incredibly important. And so what we've done with the Governor's Return to Learn Advisory Council, which I was an honor to be a part of, is really put together a roadmap for how school superintendents can work closely with their local health departments, and depending on what's going on in the region, be able to determine whether it's okay to come back to full in-person learning, hybrid, and of course, for some folks, the determination has been made that it would be best to be virtual only.
Is there anything specific to a region in the state that stands out as one region, I guess, in a more favorable position than another?
You know, that's an excellent point. So, of course, we think about these labor shed regions. So we've got the 8 MERC regions that we call them across the state. For example, there's a Detroit region, but we know the Detroit region is not just about the city of Detroit. It's got several other counties. It's got Macomb County, Oakland County, Monroe, and several others. I would say, if you use the example of the Detroit region looks very different depending on what area you're looking at. The city of Detroit actually has a much lower case count and positivity rate below the 3% cutoff that we've been talking a lot about, where you want to be, than, for example, Macomb County. And again, that's the example that comes to the top of my head. Those types of differences exist across the entire state. And there are other counties within the Detroit region that have a higher average rate than the actual average of the entire region. So I think it's important. That's why these decisions really have to be made locally, working with the local health departments. We are supporting them at the state level and determining what's best for that local school jurisdiction. We also know that the Return to Learn plan that we put out it's really the low bar, if you will. We hope that, we know that some schools may be able to have, and the governor's talked about this as well, more space on campus, for example, so that you can spread out the children more and you're able to do the in-person learning in a way that's as safe as possible. So again, it really has to be made on the local level.
So, you mentioned, of course, that you're a mom, and I know you're a mom who also happens to be the state's chief medical executive. Mm-hmm. You've seen data that might not be widely available to the public. Is there anything that you've seen that gives you pause, maybe as a mom?
Of course, I'm looking at, the data in, where I live. I'm concerned about areas where there may be cases that are increasing or the positivity rate is increasing. But I also know that there are really important mitigation factors that schools can put into place. So basic things, the wearing masks, social distancing, washing hands, cleaning services, those things work. There's no question that they work. And so if you can do that and do that well, even if our positivity rate may be, not quite what we want, I think in some instances, again, this really depends on what the school can do. It may be appropriate for them to come back to in-person learning. And again, I know every student has different needs. Some students may not do as well with the virtual learning or have issues with internet access. So we really have to think about the entire child and what's best for that child and making sure they have the supports that they need.
Yeah, I think that's a really critical point. On another note, broadly speaking, while I know that you have said in the past there is not a single specific number or metric that the governor would use to roll back reopening, what are some of the things that are being watched and maybe that parents or school administrators should watch as we reopen schools and more numbers begin to come out?
Well, we're certainly looking at, of course, those case counts are incredibly important. I think this is an important point, actually. So we put up on our website the daily case counts, and that's literally what we get as far as results from our lab feeds that come into our state data system. But then we go back and we actually talk to those positive cases. So we actually find those individuals and speak to them, and we get a better understanding of when their symptoms may have started. And so that's some of the information we put on our website as well. So when we start going back and not just understanding when the lab result came in, but when they started becoming symptomatic and when potentially spread started occurring, those particular case counts are the things that we want to watch really closely. Of course, we're looking at outbreaks as well. Right now, we've just been able to start posting data about our outbreaks across the state as well. We'll be doing more work on that. But making sure that we're understanding where outbreaks are occurring, making sure there's appropriate testing, But again, if you're testing well, you want to really see your test positivity rates go low. When you start seeing that test positivity rate go up and your case counts are going up too, that's when you want to be concerned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, those numbers are things that parents and school administrators will hopefully focus on as you release them.
And coming up later in our Education for All special, Dr. Khaldoun will be back to talk about some of the best practices she's seeing in schools all across the state, and districts are really getting creative to make it all work. So what does online learning look like after the first few days?
Two moms whose children have been learning remotely for a few weeks now share their tips and tricks for success. Some parents are hiring tutors to help with learning. But before you make that investment, the Local 4 Defenders reveal what you should consider and the right way to do a background check.
It's the first day of a very different school year for our teachers, too. Coming up next, two teachers will join us live with ways that we can help our children succeed, whether they're learning online or in person.
Education for All is produced in partnership with the Skillman Foundation and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation.
Oh, the tummy always tickles on the first day of school.
All those butterflies.
Yeah. When it comes to parenting decisions, there is no one-size-fits-all. What's good for one child may not be a right choice for another child.
We spoke with an East Point family that's split on in-person and online learning. Nick Monticelli shows us they made decisions based on each child's personality.
My first instinct is a little nervousness.
I honestly wish that it were not so many choices.
Our conversation with the Orr family from East Point was candid. Mom, Rihanna, and Dad, Demetrius, admitting they were not seeing eye to eye on their back-to-school decisions.
We would be out, somebody would ask us publicly, and he'd be like, oh, my kids stay at home. And I'm like, that's not what.
And now that they have worked through it, here's their plan. Ariana, or Ari, is going into 4th grade at Mount Clemens Montessori. She's on a hybrid schedule, half at home, half in school. Ahmad is going into 8th grade, Amir 9th grade. He is starting high school, and both boys are going back to school in person in the L'Anse Creuse district. They base their decisions on a few factors. One, socialization, especially for Amir starting in a new school. Another factor, how well the kids did with online learning. Again, for Amir, online was not really working.
He was the worst online student in ever of my days. He would fall asleep on his keyboard, like literally.
I comprehend things better, like when someone's like telling it to me face to face. Like it's so hard to focus when you're just looking at a computer.
But Ari, on the other hand, would be like, I did today, tomorrow, and Wednesday's work, and it'd be like noon.
Their last deciding factor, what the kids wanted.
Kids are committing suicide at an alarming rate. Having unhappy children just is not an option for me. It's just simply not an option.
Now, when asking the kids if they're nervous or if going back scares them, they are honest.
A little it does, because one of my cousins have died from the pandemic. Yes, it does scare me a little.
Yeah. I am a little nervous. Who wouldn't be? I'm not really worried about it, personally.
But they have made decisions they think are best for them, and that's the most important factor.
We're going to stick with our decision that we made for now, and in the event that we need to change it, we will.
Just do your best you can. That's all we're doing. That's what everybody can do.
And that might be the most important piece of advice anybody can pass along. If I may, this is a very difficult thing for everybody going through it. It's uncharted territories for so many people. So give yourself some grace. This is not the time to be demanding perfection from your kids or even yourselves. Steve, Sandra.
Boy, such good advice. And those kids are so thoughtful.
They really are.
Isn't that something? It's just great. It is a huge adjustment for parents, students, And don't forget the teachers. They are facing a variety of new challenges.
Yeah, they sure are. And tonight we get to hear from two teachers, one back in the classroom, one teaching online. Joining us now is Justin Mustonen, a 7th grade teacher at Woodworth Middle School in Dearborn, teaching social studies online, and Christina Cipolla, a 4th grade teacher at Roosevelt Elementary in West Bloomfield. She's teaching in person. So, Christina, we know school started for you last week, so you've actually had a few days back with the kids. How's it going so far?
Oh, it's going great. It was a little bit weird at first. It's strange to see the kids in their masks and to be there and to be spread apart, but they were so excited and happy to see their friends and be back in school. They were like, oh, we love the way this place smells. There's a lot of relearning with how to move about the room and where they sit and how they cannot gather. But overall, it's been a great, very busy 2 days.
A lot of energy. And Justin, okay, you're teaching online. I know every teacher loves face-to-face contact with students. That's why you get into teaching. So this must be very different. What is the biggest challenge in teaching online?
Exactly like you put it. Just creating that personal connection with the students. Obviously, I'm very personable. I'm talking with my hands right now. If I was in a classroom, I'd be animated. I'd be jumping all over, walking around. So if I can create a video like I'm kind of doing now, where students can see me be animated, where they can feel that personal connection, and then use other tools like creating Bitmojis or putting my own personal touch on emails. If there's a Star Wars quote at the end of the email, they know it's from me. So it's just little bits here and there where they can feel like they're talking to a person and not a screen.
Yeah, and you know, Justin, you talk about that personal one-on-one connection. I mean, I'm assuming that it's more important than ever really for parents right now to be involved in their students' learning, especially when it's all being done, for some students, all online.
Absolutely. I mean, I mentioned Star Wars before, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you know in episode 4, Ben Kenobi whispers in Luke's ear how to beat the Death Star, and then in episode 6, he's like, whoa, I can't help you beat Darth Vader. We're trying to create tools and opportunities for parents to act in their students' ear, whether it's standing by them, guiding them through a lesson, whether it's helping them kind of translate one of the new online programs that we have. We really want to give parents the power to feel like they have control over their students' learning and feel like we're cooperating with parents as a team.
Hey, once we get past coronavirus, we're ready for Darth Vader.
Well, we sure are.
Let's go. Yeah. We got everything, you know.
Yeah, I know. Christina, one topic I think we have to talk about, and that is one that's unavoidable, the risk factor in face-to-face school, and that is possible exposure to the virus. Is that a concern that as a teacher you just have to put out of your mind?
Yes, the same way I put it out of my mind when I go to the grocery store or, you know, shopping anywhere. We are being as safe as possible. We're all wearing our masks. We're maintaining our distance. You can't think about it all the time, but you have to make sure you're washing your hands, sanitizing, wiping things down, and keeping clean. Our district is really working hard to make sure everything is super clean and ready to go. But you know, you look at kids in masks and you can't forget that things are a little different this year.
Yeah, and Christina, how are they adjusting to the masks? What have you seen?
Our kids come for half days, so I have half my class in the morning and half in the afternoon, so it's about 3 hours they're in their masks. They'll say, it's so good to be here, but I want to take this thing off. But they're doing well with them on their faces. They're so happy to be back together that it's just one thing that they don't mind. They're like, we'll take this over being at home.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Justin and Christina, you have different challenges, but enormous challenges for both of you. God bless every teacher who is taking this on. We are so thankful and proud of you for nurturing our children the way you are. Thank you, guys.
We salute you for sure.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to hear from two moms who have been doing virtual learning for weeks already. They're going to share some advice and tricks they have picked up along the way.
And a group of local moms will join us as they navigate the return to school. And a bit later, see how our first days went today. Karen Drew and I are going to take you along as our children go back. While many students are returning to in-person learning, many others are reporting to class virtually instead of heading into a physical classroom.
As many families begin this online learning experience, we heard from two moms whose children started online school the school year several weeks ago. They give us a look at what you can expect in the first few weeks.
When I first heard from a principal friend of ours that this was most likely going to be the case, I started looking into places we could go. Let's get out of here. Let's virtual learn. Let's get an RV. Let's go south. Let's not do this again. But I have been pleasantly surprised.
Tiffany Schluter has 3 kids. They're in the 2nd, 4th, and 5th grade down in Indiana. Remote learning started the first week of August, and so far, so good.
I'm really impressed with her teachers, too, making sure they know that it's their responsibility at this age to do the work and not ask their parents for help.
We're finally getting into a cadence and routine.
Katie McPherson has 4 daughters in 6th, 8th, and 9th grades in Arizona. 3 weeks in, she says online school is still in the honeymoon period.
If something's missing or didn't get turned in on time, they're giving some grace.
Both moms say it's important to give your kids their own dedicated workspace.
Giving them each their own little space might also make it feel more real. And make them be able to concentrate better.
Tiffany has a dry erase board and cork boards for each child's desk. On them are schedules and logins for the different apps they use. Katie recommends in and out boxes to keep track of assignments and a water bottle.
Hydration is crucial. Lots of kids are reporting headaches.
Katie is an educator herself. She says the first few weeks are mostly about adjusting to the routine.
I had like this schedule of like they're going to eat, we're going to do yoga, we're going to move our bodies, and with 4 different kids doing 4 different things, it's not always the case. And so you just have to be really open and flexible.
Tiffany uses a virtual camp 2 days a week. Her kids do their online school from there, with student teachers available to help.
I needed a break. It was probably the biggest reason, but I also thought that they were missing out on getting out, moving around, being active, and just interacting with other kids.
Katie works full-time from home and has some good advice for moms and dads. Don't forget to also take care of yourself.
Early. I have alone time for myself. I make my own to-do list and I exercise.
Above all, try to be patient. This is an adjustment for everybody.
School is their job right now. And so they know, even though we're at home, your job is still to get on there and make sure you're doing everything you need to do.
I am so impressed with what these teachers are pulling off. They really are creative and innovative. It is good instruction.
You know, both moms agreed organization is key. Give them a schedule. Tiffany says set an alarm for your children, for the classes, when they start, when they end. The kids really need to have a day be predictable for them to be calm with it all. So how are parents feeling as we return to school? We have some local moms joining us tonight.
Nikki Little has twin boys in 2nd grade. They're online in Berkeley. Ebony Bagley, whose daughter started 1st grade online in Farmington Hills just this morning.
Nikki and Ebony, I guess the same question for both of you about online learning. It means kids will generally be home, not in school. That puts a lot more pressure on moms and dads. Are you concerned with how your families are going to manage this all? Nikki, how about you start?
Yes, so we spent the past several weeks planning how we were going to make this work to start the school year virtually. As many parents have already talked about the challenges of the spring, we made it work day by day, but it was not ideal with my husband and I working from home and trying to do our best to teach our kids. So we decided to partner with 2 other families in our community. So we have 4 boys who are together, learning together. We're splitting between my house and another family's house. And we actually found somebody who is a teacher who was looking to teach virtually. So we have her helping on top of the parents as well. So day 1 went pretty well, a couple tech issues, but that's to be expected for the first day.
Yeah, as everybody works out the kinks. So Ebony, tell us a little bit about your experience so far. How has it been with online learning?
Yeah, so far, I mean, it's myself and my husband both are working from home right now. My daughter is in 1st grade. Today was definitely a challenge. I did take the first couple of days off this week just to help her get adjusted, but being a 1st grader and doing everything virtual and staying engaged, it definitely was a challenge. But on the bright side, I'm looking at it like it only can go up from here. Definitely looking into ways, though, to my mother came over and helped today. I'm looking into getting my mother-in-law involved with helping out. So we're really looking into relying on our village during this time.
You know, Ebony, I want you to talk a little bit more about that because I did an interview with you a few weeks ago. We were talking about online school and you mentioned the village. And I think that is so crucial. Talk about how your village is making this doable.
Yeah, I mean, I am in a good spot. And me and my husband, we talk about how fortunate we are. We have, my mother is retired, and my mother-in-law has a very flexible schedule right now, especially with the virus and everything. So they are able to help us at least 2 days a week, which gives us some relief. This week, they're really helping us kind of get adjusted to the whole virtual learning. I also have a 1-year-old, so really relying on family, at least until we're more comfortable with opening up our homes with the virus and everything, which we're just not there right now.
And Nikki, I'm wondering, would you consider at some point sending the boys back to school?
You know, we talked about that, and our concern is just the yo-yoing back and forth. Like, if the school district did open again, of course, it would be ideal to have them go back, but our concern, again, is just not having that predictability and schedule if they did go back. And then what if, again, cases start to surge, the schools close down? That's not good for them to not have that structure, and it's not good for us either. So our decision is most likely that they will stay virtual for the whole school year.
You know, when we talked with the teachers earlier, and Justin touched on it, that face-to-face for them is so important. They love being with their kids. Is that a concern for you, the isolation that your children are not with their friends, they're not with their teacher, they're not in that people-to-people environment? Is that a concern for you? Nikki, I'll ask you first.
That was a big driving factor behind us choosing to partner up with 2 other families in the neighborhood. We are all following the same social distancing guidelines. We've committed to very open and honest communication with each other to make sure that it works. And, you know, it has been hard for my kids. They're very social. They love their friends. It was been difficult the past few months. So knowing that at least they'll get that interaction with 2 other classmates is really very reassuring.
And Ebony, quickly, same question to you. Is that a concern, the isolation for your child?
Yes, it's definitely been a concern, and we have done the same. I've been partnering with moms throughout the summer. I'm in some mom groups where we safely socially distance, as well as we have an extended family with cousins, again, that live fortunately in our neighborhood. So my daughter does have that social interaction, but it is definitely a concern. And it was wonderful seeing her today interact, even though it was virtually, with her friends that she hadn't seen all summer.
Yeah, every little bit helps, doesn't it? All right, Nikki and Ebony, thank you so much. We appreciate it. You know, many people agree that in-person is the best way for children to learn, but the pandemic really raises serious health concerns for parents and teachers.
Up next, our Dr. Frank McGeorge asks the state's chief medical executive about what schools are doing and need to do to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Don't you love those little faces?
I love those pictures.
There are so many questions, concerns, emotion when it comes to returning to school.
So we decided to ask our WDIV insiders about what they're feeling. So we polled 100 insiders. First question, do you think kids should return to in-person school this fall? 68% say no, 32% say yes. Next, how long should virtual learning only exist rather. Only the first semester wins with 34%. 30% want to wait until there's a working vaccine, while 22% say the entire school year. How confident are you school districts will make the right decision about returning to in-person classes and when to return? 39% are not confident, with 24% saying they were very unconfident. However, 28% say they are confident with the decisions. To see the entire poll and also to find out how to become a WDIV insider, check out the homepage of clickondetroit.com. So when it comes to in-person learning, some school districts across Michigan are making big changes to try to keep everyone safe.
Dr. McGeorge picks up his conversation with Dr. Janae Caldoun, who says we can learn from the best practices around the state.
You know, another question that I had was, some parents, of course, feel an urgency to get their kids back to in-person learning. but others, they're frankly still afraid of the current risk level or how this might evolve as fall becomes winter. And certainly, of course, teachers have similar feelings. You've talked to people across the state, I imagine. Are there any best practices that you've heard schools adopting that might help everyone feel a little more comfortable returning? You mentioned, for example, that your plan is the floor, not the ceiling. Schools can do more. What more have people done that sounds like a really good idea to you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I would say I understand. Again, I've got one child who's in elementary school, so I understand that the younger children, it may be more difficult for them to understand that you have to wear a mask. But I'm also training my son, and now he's excited about his mask, and I got him the one he wanted. So there is a way, I think, to engage with children, and particularly for kindergarten through fifth grade. I do think that if schools can, they should make it a part of their practice and their protocol for their school to have the children wearing the mask. I think also thinking about the classroom, the length of time in a particular class is important. I've heard some schools that instead of having their older students go to 7 classes in a day, and first through 7th hour, they made it fewer hours and fewer blocks longer for one particular class, but the children are transitioning between classrooms and not as often. And so that infrequent transition and less movement of the children makes it less likely that they'll be interacting with other children and other teachers. So those are some of the things that I've seen. Putting lines in the hallway, for example, so that there's literally lanes instead of students just mixing. Imagine, at least when I went to high school, all that mixing in the hallway. Limiting that, and maybe one hallway becomes one way, or there's one stairwell where it's only up, and then you kind of can direct traffic in that way and minimize it. I know some schools are limiting kids going to their lockers, so those are some things that I think are really interesting practices I've learned about and that other schools might want to try.
Yeah, no, those are all really outstanding ideas, actually. I hadn't thought of many of them myself, actually. So I'm kind of interested on your thoughts on this one. It's my opinion, and you alluded to this, that there really is not a one-size-fits-all solution to returning to school. I mean, districts need to be able to accommodate changing circumstances. In-person learning is always generally better than remote learning. But there are many different reasons that a child might preferentially need to be in school, whether it's nutritional or special education, for example. What kinds of focus does the MDHHS have in trying to address those needs if children cannot go back to in-person learning?
Right, so we're certainly working with our school superintendents to make sure that they have the information that they need so that they can get the right information to their parents. We're not the education department, but we are making sure that things like masks and support, nutrition services, we actually have a lot that we're doing on behavioral health support services as well. Again, we recognize that for a lot of children, that they need to be in school, that social interaction. Human beings are social beings, and so we need to have that interaction, especially for our children. So we're doing everything we can to support our school districts.
Now, I know your time is precious. I just want to ask you one last thing. Do you want to throw in a pitch for the flu vaccine here?
I thought you'd never ask. So absolutely. I was, excited to announce our new Fighting the Flu initiative that we announced with the governor yesterday. It's going to be incredibly important that people get their flu vaccine. We know there will be flu viruses and COVID circulating this fall. People will be symptomatic and needing to stay out of work and school. They may overwhelm our hospital system. So the flu vaccine, it works. It's effective. Even if, in that 40% of the time where maybe you still get the flu, it's most likely going to be a mild flu. You won't get severely ill. So please, 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 this year, get your flu vaccine. It's so important to help fight not just the flu, but COVID-19.
Well, Dr. Khaldoun, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know the viewers really appreciate it. I appreciate it. And you have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well. Good to see you.
Thanks, Dr. McGeorge. The return to school, we know, can be very overwhelming, and many of you may just be taking it day by day. We spoke to an expert about the best way to get you and your kids through that first week.
We've all been there. The butterflies, the jitters. Heading back to school in the fall can be filled with a lot of ups and downs. It's an emotional time anyway, and on top of that, school kids are starting a new school year in the middle of a pandemic.
I think that parents need to understand that it is up to them to have a calm presence with their children. Because if they are hyped up, their children will be hyped up. So the first thing is to try and stay calm.
Dr. Donna says make your children part of the process so they feel included and can take ownership of what's going on around them.
It's kind of like being in a war because we have to be so careful when we go out. So we need to understand that things aren't like they were before. There is a new reality, but as a family, how can we cope with that and how can we get through it together?
Create a special space set aside for learning, preferably somewhere in your home where there aren't many distractions. Make sure your little ones understand how important it is to be open-minded and flexible because school will look very different this year.
It's up to us to create the energy that we want our children to have. If they're going to school, instead of hugging the teacher, they can do a big arms open virtual hug. And, we can make it fun.
Experts say providing structure for children is more important now than ever during a time when so much is out of their control.
So we need to really divide up the day in a very organized way so that the children feel a sense of order.
Dr. Donna says, remember, children get their vibes from you, so try to keep your outlook positive.
One of the hidden silver linings of having to go through a time like this is that children learn that they can get through anything because they got through this.
And another good tip, Dr. Donna says, don't forget to have some fun that first week. Be creative. She says, think about things that you would normally do with your kids on a weekend and then try to sprinkle some of that throughout the school day or spread it out throughout the week.
And what's that saying? Fake it till you make it?
I think that's good advice.
Even if you're not calm, pretend that you are.
It is the first day of school for many families, including some of us right here at Local 4, and we are sharing our experience of this first day many months after school ended very abruptly.
And for parents looking to hire someone to help their children learn at home, how do you properly do a background check? The Local 4 defenders have answers next. With many school districts beginning the school year online, some families with financial resources will hire tutors to help their children this fall.
But before you bring a stranger into your home, there are some serious things to consider, like that person's background. Here's Local 4 defender Karen Drew.
Well, you're going to have people in your house that have access to your home, access to your valuables. They're around your kids.
And that's why this former FBI agent says you need to run a background check on people you bring in your home to help teach your kids.
You need to have a complete background on them. You need to verify that they're using the correct social security number. You need to check them on the sex offender list and a valid criminal history check in every state they've been in.
You can bet some Houston area parents wish they did that.
She seemed like a very nice person. That you wouldn't think that would happen.
This longtime private tutor and former teacher was out on bond for allegedly soliciting a student for sex when she was arrested for sexually assaulting a different teenager.
I think we're all shocked by what happens in the world. We don't expect it, but it's there.
Timmons runs LLC Consulting and is hired frequently to run background checks. His advice is, if you're going to let someone in your home and interact with your children, you need a comprehensive nationwide background check.
You've got to use the social security number, see where that shows up, and do that specific state. Some states give you statewide, and some only give you like a city or an area.
Other advice from this former FBI agent, always keep checking on your children when the tutor is in your home, and always check your home after that person leaves.
Plumbers, electricians let her come in and leave a window or a door open so they can come back at night or leave it open that you don't find, and then all of a sudden your house is broken into.
Timmons' advice is not to scare parents, just to get them prepared and informed to make sure their children's learning experience is a safe one. Karen Drew, Local 4 Defenders.
And the price tag for a nationwide background check like the one Timmons was talking about can cost you anywhere from $100 to $150 and can take 2 or possibly even 3 days to complete.
It's not just the classroom impacted this school year, it's also sports and extracurricular activities. Our WDIV insiders have weighed in on the Michigan High School Athletic Association's decision to postpone fall football. More than 300 people responded. 69% think the MHSAA did the right thing by canceling the season. About the same number, 68%, don't believe football should be played at all right now. Opinions split more evenly when asked if high school football should be played in the spring. 53% think it should, 47% are against the idea. We'll wrap things up after the break with a look at how the first day went for some families here at Local 4.
In fact, I'll take you along for my family's morning and some of the challenges we faced. We'll talk about that.
Ford Motor Company salutes all those who have been on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. To the emergency room nurses, doctors, and countless other healthcare workers, to the EMTs, firefighters, and policemen and women, thank you. Your sacrifice, hard work, and dedication are what make our communities stronger. Built to serve, built with our communities, built Ford proud.
Love getting prices that are lower than low on food that's fresher than fresh? With the Kroger app, you can get personalized coupons on top of weekly sales and rewards like fuel points, all for prices that are lower than the everyday low. So go ahead, get lower than low. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
For 81 years, we've been here for Michigan. From day one to year 100. Committed to the communities we call home. Because we're here for it all and always will be. Confidence comes with every card. We're here for you. With more ways to access the care you need from the doctors you trust. We're here for it all and always will be. Confidence comes with every card.
Coming up all new on Local 4 News at 11.
We swore everybody to secrecy.
In a secret location so the public wouldn't show up.
I'm Local 4 Defender Karen Drew. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of this hush-hush operation coming up after the Education for All special.
Little bit more heat, little bit more humidity, and that is going to lead to thunderstorm chances on Tuesday. A lot of us don't need the rain, but we're going to get it anyway. We'll look at timing next.
Right now, movie theaters are sitting empty in Metro Detroit, so a Royal Oak school wants to use that extra space.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. The Imagine Theater is allowing Shrine Catholic schools to hold socially distanced classes inside. Shrine is a hybrid school, so students will alternate between in-person and remote learning on different days. On remote days, parents will have the option to send their children to Imagine, where they would be supervised by Shrine staff.
We said, parents, you already work so hard at home, providing for your kids, getting meals for your kids. We want to be able to provide you with an option that still gives them that face-to-face contact with our staff, with our teachers, with our support staff, so that they can still get that learning support. And that's where the Imagine Theater came about.
Well, what an amazing and welcome break, I'm sure, for parents. Students need to wear a mask, and they will log in individually on their laptops. If there is a group activity, the school will utilize the movie screens. For a lot of families, today was all about figuring out the new schedules and routines, a whole new way to do school.
And we're all in this together along with you. And some of us here at Local 4 documented our day.
Woohoo! Go, Brennan, go! Woo!
Have a great first day of school, everybody. Happy back to school.
Good Monday morning. We made it to the first day of school. It's just before 7 in the morning. And the kiddos are already up. And they say they're actually excited, so here we go.
Back to school breakfast in the works. That raspberry cookie right there, that's for me.
So we have about 45 minutes before we have to log on to our first Zoom today. We have a new 3rd grader in the house and a 6th grader, and we're all virtual. 7:32, we're getting ready to log on. I meant to practice logging on yesterday, but I had to work, so we ran out of time. We are gonna attempt it this morning. Are you excited for your first Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
Do you wish you were going in person?
Yeah.
Aw.
And we're ready for 3rd grade. What are you most excited about?
Seeing my friends.
What are you thinking of today?
I'm excited.
What do you think about the face mask?
I mean, I don't want to wear it, but I know we should.
What does my hubby think?
I hope they're safe and healthy.
You're gonna miss your friends. Let's go.
First day of school, the cars are lined up. Woohoo! Good luck. I got emotional. I guess as a mom, you just always wonder if you're making the right decision, if it's the best thing for your kid. I think I am. I think it's good that they're going back. I just hope it works out. Right, Bailey?
I would just say to that, my girls are grown, so I stand in awe.
So you're lucky.
You parents who are dealing with these challenges, I am not worthy.
And we had a lot of technical difficulties in my home today. I got to tell you, there were a lot of tears too. But we made it through. Most of those tears came from me.
Well,
but
yeah.
Tomorrow's a new day, so we get to start over.
Every day's a new day, a fresh start. Thank you for joining us. We hope you took something away here to help you through these challenging times.
We will have continuing coverage of this anything but normal school year on our newscast and in the Return to School section of clickondetroit.com. You'll find all of our past stories, every local district's plan for the year, plus advice there on supplies to buy for online learning. Local 4 News at 11 is next.